Thank you all for attending Social Media Week. My name is Jay Otway. I'm on the Social Media Week Advisory Board. I'm also a speaker, author, and consultant who deals in social media. Tonight, as I'm doing every night this week, I'm doing a quick wrap-up of all the day's events. Quick show of hands, who here is attending their first Social Media Week event tonight? Excellent, welcome. Congratulations. Who's attending their second Social Media Week event? All right, well done. And third or more? Woo, hardcore in the front. Well, thank you all very much for coming and welcome. For those of you who have missed a few events today because you've had pesky things like jobs to have to go to, I'm going to give you a quick daily wrap. We are also streaming this live as we are with all events from the space. j.mp/hksocial-live. And that's the other thing I organize is a group called HK Social. We meet the first Friday of every month for breakfast at Pure Restaurant and Bar in Soho. And it's a gathering now of usually about 100 people every month. We've got 800 registered members. You can find us at meetup.com/hksocial. And we talk about all the latest and coolest trends in social media, and we have guest speakers every month. It's a great social networking opportunity as well. So, on with the show. Today, what did we look at? This morning, early this morning, we had a bunch of people getting together to talk about what's not or what is cooking in social media. And we had a number of restaurants and restaurateurs and chefs getting together and talking about it. There they are. They were in Causeway Bay at SML. And some of the key points that came out of this, unlike some businesses who think, social media is great for pushing bargains and discounts and promotions, that's a really bad idea for the restaurant business. Do not do cheap deals, no sales or discounts or promotions, because for sale gives the wrong impression. If it's cheap, there must be something wrong with it. Social media helps people feel more included in what would normally be an exclusive experience. So they're really talking a lot more about using social media as a tool to make your restaurants feel more valuable, not cheaper and less valuable. And I think there's good lessons there for a lot of brands. Don't always be competing to be the cheapest. This is Wu Wei. He's the executive chef over at the Mandarin Oriental. He's quite active on social media, and he feels that the key objective of doing social media is to stay connected with people. For him, it's not really about getting people to the restaurant or converting them. But he also said, you shouldn't give away too many of your secrets. That said, he's also saying that I'd love to share even more stuff online, but time is an issue. And I think that's true for almost all of us in business. Finding the time to do social media, at this point, it feels like an extra thing we've added on our day. Keep in mind that there was a time in business where there was no telephones or emails. All of those things became part of the work process, and we have to think of social media in the same light. There's a couple more of our panelists, Lindsay and Selena, and they talked a little bit about how social media is about humanizing your brand, and I think that's a really great word when we talk about social media. Humanizing is what it is, about trying to make your brand feel more like a person, or even better, to let people know the people in your business. Selena is from Sina Weibo, and she was talking about how social media has really changed the dining scene in China and is allowing a lot more people to give feedback and a lot more discussions go on. And obviously online recommendations play into this, and for restaurants that's everything. And social media allows you to often respond online to critics. Next we had, in a very similar sort of vein, very different at the same time, Twitter feeding. So this was at lunch today, and the idea of this, I'll explain in a second. There they are with their laptops tweeting away while other people are having conversations. This was all in aid of feeding Hong Kong. I'll talk a bit more in a minute, but it begins with this idea that we are wasting a tremendous amount of food every single day, and that we could do something better with that food rather than throw it away. So the guests there were invited to discuss the big issues, while the hosts, those back here on the laptops were there to try and capture the dinner conversation and live tweet what everybody was saying as they were sort of saying it, and try and capture the pithy, intelligent little bits of it. And for the most part, it is really awesome. Like watching them today, everybody was having a lot of fun. Everybody was very animated and getting really into it. This was one of the first tweets that came out of it. Nourishing conversation with people hungry for change. All of the discussions at Twitter Feeding today were centered around the idea of what would you change in Hong Kong? How would you make Hong Kong better? And everybody has ideas about how to make Hong Kong better. Nobody said, oh yeah, we're done. Like, Hong Kong's finished. Everybody's got ideas. So one example, they started talking a bit about recycling in Hong Kong, being done by private companies, you know, talking about what's happening to our recycling. They got into conversations about things like that. Started talking a lot about creativity and how creativity is in all of our DNA. But maybe it's not accepted here in Hong Kong, and that, you know, but we've got such a great, strong design professions in this town, how we should be promoting them better. And then they start talking about things like graffiti, and the conversation sort of veers off into wonderful sort of places. But we even had people as far away as Washington, D.C., who are known to, you know, friends here in Hong Kong, chiming in and joining into the discussion using Twitter. And it became a very global conversation about what Hong Kong could do. And of course, it came back to companies as well, and people talking about how in Hong Kong we need to use social media to build positive reputations. And it was all in aid of these guys here, Feeding HK, which you can find on Twitter at Feeding HK. That's them there. And what they're trying to do is bridge the gap between hunger and food waste in Hong Kong and find a way to get all this wasted food to people who are hungry. And apparently it came out in the discussions that we are as food vulnerable, meaning we've got as many people who are at risk of starving as Somalia, which sounds pretty horrific given how much food I seem to consume. A chance to be heard. What amazing thing happens, this isn't just a dinner discussion like you might have with your friends. Something different happens when you know that everything you say is being live tweeted out to the world. I was on the radio this morning at RTHK Radio 3. We were talking about social media and Social Media Week. And it affects me when I'm sitting there in a studio with a microphone. I keep thinking to myself, don't swear, please don't swear. And you try to do your very best to give your best spin on things. And I was seeing the exact same thing happen with everybody at their dinner conversations. Because they knew that they were being live tweeted, when everybody had their chance to talk about what they thought about should be done in Hong Kong, nobody was being blasé or sitting back. Everybody was giving their very best sound bites and little pithy bits that we could get into 140 characters, or try to. And it really is dinner conversation at its best. Everybody who came out of Twitter Feeding today, was anybody there? Anybody here who was there? Did you have a good time? Yeah? Everybody loved it. I think you'd do it again. Yeah? Given a chance? It's your second time. I've done it once myself. I was so envious of everybody in there. I couldn't stay, I couldn't partake, but I wanted to. It's a tremendous amount of fun. We will be doing more Twitter feedings in Hong Kong throughout the year, so please do stay tuned to things like HK Social, people like Bess Hepworth at Bonsapai on Twitter. She's our sort of chief instigator for these sort of things. It was a really great time. This afternoon here, right after lunch, we had the Women Warriors, and I think that's a bit of a rough title for them. They are elegant, beautiful, amazing business women, really power women who have got amazing startups and companies and have been running huge organizations. And here they are on stage. We had Heels and Deals, Little Steps Asia, Sinclair Communications, Quintessentially, and Plucka, and they were all talking about how they're using, like actively using social media to grow their businesses locally, regionally, and globally. All of these women were hugely impressive, and we had a lot of women in the audience, a few guys as well. But it was wonderful to see women up here being able to really influence their community and say, look, take social media serious. A lot of the discussion was about building brand voice, authenticity, something I'm a big advocate of. Authentic is to not bullshit your customers, to not treat them like they're stupid. We're all customers, we're all smart. We've got a hair trigger bullshit like meter. As soon as we know that you're feeding us a lie, we turn off. And they were all talking about how you be honest, how you be straightforward with people. They were all talking about social media being a platform for establishing relationships with partners and the media and customers. Relationships, a big word that they were using a lot. And also brands must know who they are. And they spent a fair bit of time today talking about knowing what you're about and figuring out your values. And I think a lot of companies, they get lost. They do branding exercises or things, but they're not really true to the company or the people who are working there. And they were saying that you really have to know the people who you work with, and they all have to believe in what you're doing. Social media content should be relevant to your business objectives. They talked a lot about how they dislike seeing companies running goofy social media campaigns or contests just to try and get people to click like buttons, but having it nothing to do with really what their business is. You know, suckering people in to click the like button is not social media. It's not about business. It doesn't do you any good to have all these extra likes. You want engagement. You want people actually building relationships. Joanne Oy talked a lot today about her strategies of how she's right now actively courting all these sort of bloggers and super social media influencers in the US. She's saying that these people are represented by creative agencies now. They have agents that you've got to go through to talk to these people, and how some of them she feels have really sold out, and she's not interested in those. And there's others who are more genuine, and she's trying to build relationships with those. And remember who you are as a brand and keep the same personality. I've taken all of these things from the Twitter streams, so if you're interested in following along to the events, Twitter's always a great place to turn to. A couple other interesting facts that came up during the panel. Women entrepreneurs right now are starting businesses apparently at twice the rate of men. I mean, I'm not totally sure if that's statistically true, but I do know that there is a far greater percentage of women using social media than men right now. And it's not sort of, I'm almost not really surprised by that, and I'm not surprised by these women who have started up their own businesses being early adopters of using this. Women do tend to be much better at this community building idea about bringing people together, about these relationships. They do really well in this space, and I think they were really inspiring the audience today to take it seriously. I had a lot of people in the audience saying, wow, you know, I wasn't going to take social media so seriously, but seeing these women doing that, I really want to now. And there was absolutely no doubt in the mind of any of the women who were on stage today that social media was a tremendous value to their business. And then we had Ali Bullock and myself on stage doing social media for social good. And there we are with Michael Wong from the SPCA. And Michael was kind enough to help us tell a story, which I'll briefly recap here, about a few puppies earlier this year who somehow a photo was taken of them as they'd reached the SPCA and were in the clinic. They hadn't actually been cleared by the SPCA to be adopted, but the photo got out, and a number of us, including myself, were guilty of retweeting it and passing around saying, look, some beautiful puppies up for adoption. The puppies turned out to be very sick. They had a virus that would be very contagious to the rest of the kennel, very dangerous, and the puppies had to be put down. There was a 98% chance they would have died of the virus anyways. But the problem was that the SPCA was quite slow to respond to this. And by slow, I mean 1 day. And we joke that 1 day in social media years, a bit like dog years, is equal to 7 years in the real world. That 1 day delay meant that they had a tremendous amount of blowback saying, the SPCA is just randomly killing puppies, and the story kind of got away from them. And he was really humble and lovely about talking about the importance of NGOs being quicker at responding. They're typically slow-moving organizations, and so the social age, not just for them, but for brands, for all of us, the importance now is to react immediately, to be able to get involved in the conversation, to get on top of it, to try and tell people, please don't share these pictures, we're not really sure these are real, there's a good chance there's a virus, and just try and get ahead of the story. And so he was good about talking about that with us today.